Hi guys, my name is Daniel. Many of you guys know I made a YouTube video a couple years ago about brisket. I decided I'm going to give it another shot at some more cooking based videos. I'm going to name this channel We're All Chefs, and I'm going to feature a few of my favorite kind of outdoor cooking or indoor cooking tips and tricks on some of the food that I love and have shared with many of you guys who ask me to make videos or ask me to talk about or ask me how it is that I cook. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this. The first video that I'm going to make back is actually an indoor cooking steak method. Many of you know I love to cook. Steak is kind of where it all started, whether it be over a campfire or on a Traeger, indoors. I've shared with many of you guys some of my favorite cooking tips and tricks or photos, and I know many of you have always said really good things about it. So today I'd like to teach you a little bit about what sous vide is. Sous vide is a cooking process in which there is a cooker that warms up water and circulates water. You basically vacuum seal a steak after it's already seasoned. You let it cook inside this water bath. Many people like to laugh and joke calling it boiling steak or whatever, but hands down, this is probably the most game-changing cooking method that you can have in home for sure. It's really easy. There's like 4 main things that you need. Obviously a sous vide cooker with some sort of container. Many people use like a pot. You will need a vacuum sealer, and then just a hot pan that you're able to sear the steak in. So I'm going to share with you guys the process on how to home cook a thick steak, specifically a ribeye steak, in the sous vide process. And then yeah, let me know what you think. The first question people always ask me is what I use to season my steaks. And after years and years of cooking a steak, the one that I always come back to is definitely Cosmo Q's SPG. This thing is the say-all be-all for many of my friends that I get together with or ask me about cooking or start getting into cooking because of me. I always either gift or share this one because it's hands down the best. On top of my steaks, I've really kind of fallen in love with adding a little bit of a twist to the steak. I use this garlic jalapeno rub as just kind of a duster for my steaks. The reason I use the garlic jalapeno rub is not really for spice, and in my opinion, it doesn't add really any spice at all. Maybe if you go heavy with it, sure. But my wife, being from Germany, likes zero spicy foods, and I can tell you guys she loves the way that I do these steaks too. So first things first, when it comes to cooking a steak, you definitely want to season it pretty heavily. A good dusting on top. I don't use any binder, no olive oil or any of that other stuff you sometimes see. I try to use my seasoning to really pat the sides, get the sides completely covered, and you can see I go pretty heavy with this on top. Now, again, a ribeye, in my opinion, is the best steak. It's probably the opinion of a lot of people too, because they use it for all the international steak competitions and everything else. So definitely really like this guy. Now once I have it completely coated with Cosmo Q's, again I use the Heath Riles garlic jalapeno, and you'll see that I really just do kind of like a light dusting. Sometimes if the steak isn't as thick, what I'll do is I'll only use this on one side instead of doing it on both sides. But again, just a very light dusting just to add some of that fresh pepper flavor all around the steak. You can find most of these on Amazon, or I often buy Cosmo Q's in bulk. He has some pretty good sales throughout the year. Recently President's Day, there's always some good pricing and stuff. But yeah, there's the steak basically fully crusted and seasoned. And now it's time to throw it in the vacuum sealer. This is the vacuum sealer I use from Inkbird. It's really nothing fancy, to be honest with you. By the roll, it holds the roll inside, which is something that's nice and convenient. Essentially what I do is I take my seasoned steak here, try to fold these sides back, and then just tuck that steak in there. All right, now that my steak is seasoned and vacuum sealed, One of the many questions that people often ask is, or people often do when cooking a steak, is they leave it out at room temperature before they throw it on the grill or cook it in a cast iron pan. What's awesome about sous vide is you can literally take it out and season it how you'd like and then throw it in the cooker. With that said, I do have my cooker set to 125 degrees. A lot of people say, well, what temperature do you cook your steaks to? What's medium rare? What's the best way to have a steak? My favorite way to have a steak is medium rare. And I also would encourage many of you guys who have never really had a medium rare steak or are scared of the pink. One thing I love about sous vide cooking in general is that this thing is going to be in this water cooker for about 2.5 hours. Now, that temperature and that time does vary based off of whatever sort of protein you're cooking. Like for instance, chicken is a little bit different, but in another video, I'll show you guys why I strongly recommend sous vide, especially for chicken. The reason I set mine to 125 is I like to have just that wiggle room where I can get a really nice crust on my steak and I don't have to worry about overcooking it, which the benefits of sous vide is I promise you guys, you literally can't mess this up. Now that we've got our steak completely seasoned, my cooker is set to 125 degrees. What I like to do is I like to use the lid to basically just keep the steak upright here. Remember that water's circulating around, so you just want to make sure it's not sitting flat at the bottom so that everything is kind of cooked all around, which again, it's really very simple. You don't have to stress too much. I've had it resting on the bottom before, never had an issue, but that's just one of the things that you'll often read or see. I'm going to let this sit for 2.5 hours. Once it's done, you'll see that it doesn't look that appealing when we take it out, but I can promise you guys that it's going to be one of the best looking steaks you've ever had. All right, so it's been a little over 2.5 hours here since I put the steak in the sous vide cooker. I'm going to take this out and show you guys kind of the process before you cook it. First things first, you want to make sure you grab some paper towels because it's important to pat the steak dry because it's been cooking in its juices and it's got all that moisture. Whenever you sear a steak, you really want to make sure the outer portion of it has got a really good crust. So I typically just kind of open it up. Probably should have had some tongs, but use my hand here. And I'll show you guys up close kind of what this looks like here in a second. So literally all I'm going to do here is take the steak, pat it dry, just kind of flip it over here. Get both sides. I've got a really good cook on this, I can see. And again, it doesn't look that great whenever you take it right out of the sous vide cooker, if I'm being honest with you. But this is where the going gets good. It's cooked at exactly the temperature that I want. It's okay if we let the outside rest a little bit because it will still be warm. Whenever we sear it, we'll get that nice crust on the end. And we're gonna go ahead and put this on the hot cast iron, give it a nice sear, and then cut into it for you guys to see. Now typically I would cook with a beef tallow, but most of the time I make my beef tallow when I cook a brisket. In today's case, I actually don't have any more tallow. I recently did a cook. So I'm going to use what everyone has or you can get readily available as a grass-fed butter. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to start to heat up my pan here. Now as you can see, my cast iron, typically when I'm done cooking with it, I usually just coat it in oil or leave it in the oven after it's been coated in any sort of like canola oil. So that's what I've done here, but I'm going to get it up to temperature and I'm going to throw down a little bit of butter. Really let that butter kind of sizzle. I just like to move the steak around and really let it get into butter there. Also, it seems like my stove probably needs leveled because the butter tends to slide down. But hey, again, this is to make it easy to cook in your house without having to worry about having an outdoor grill, or for a lot of you that might be in an apartment, this is hands down the way to go. And what I'm going to do is I'm not concerned about moving it because remember, my steak is already cooked to my temperature that I want. All I'm trying to do is give it a good crust. So The saying where you don't have to touch the steak or you want to keep the juices in, you really don't have to worry about too much because it's literally been cooking in its juices for the last 2.5 hours. And all I'm trying to do is give it a crust. So you can check on how your crust looks or how far along you are in the crust process. And as you guys can see, we're starting to get a really good crust here. And again, I'm going to sear all the sides of the steak, including the fat. I'm going to really want that fat to kind of render down. Alright guys, as you can see, I have completely finished searing my steak. Again, I like a little bit of a thicker crust, so when it comes to the crust itself, it's all up to you. When it comes to cutting the steak, I personally like to kind of separate my ribeye from the top cap. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut into it and let you guys see for yourself what medium rare looks like. There you guys have it. There's my steak, cooked via sous vide, 100% indoors, no outdoor grill needed, just in a hot cast iron pan. Something that you can accomplish whether you're in an apartment or in a house. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I'd love for some comments and some feedback. Obviously, it's my first time through. A little bit nervous, of course, too. But maybe in the next video, I'll show you guys ribs on the big barbecue or the big pit that I got. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great day. Thank you so much. And remember, we're all chefs.